Did you get the sense watching Oregon play UCLA that they kind of took their foot off the gas in the second half? Me too.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Which players on Oregon need to play better or are capable of playing better? And a very special early uniform reveal that took place I want to talk about on today's show. But Oregon beat UCLA 34-13. I'm awake. I promise I'm awake. But that's kind of how Oregon went through the second half. You see what I did there? They were kind of just moseying along. They were fine. It wasn't anything bad. It wasn't anything great. It wasn't anything special. And the more I watched the second half, the more I thought, are they just trying to leave? Are they just trying to get out of here? Now, if you're not an Oregon fan watching this show or listening to this show, you're probably thinking this dude is being the homer of all homers to say, oh, well, they just weren't trying. Okay, that's a fair criticism to make because maybe it's just an observation that fans made that I don't even know what word I was trying to say there, is certifiably absurd. Then I went and I did a little bit of digging. And no, your eyes were not deceiving you. So, in this game, Oregon UCLA, Dillon Gabriel attempted 41 passes. 41 passes. I don't think that number is anything spectacular. He attempted 49 against Idaho. 41 passes in this game. He attempted a lot fewer against Oregon State. How many of those passes do you think came in the second half? How many? If you just had to guess, is there a number that would make you think, yeah, okay, maybe Oregon was just kind of trying to run out the clock here in the second half and get on with it and get back to Eugene and get ready for an early game, which is on Friday, not early in the day. It's late at night, but it's on Friday, not Saturday. 10 is the number. Not the over-under number. That's how many passes Dillon Gabriel attempted in the second half. Of his completions, he had 7 by my count in the first half that were of 10 yards or more. In the second half, there was 1. Now, this is not to say that there weren't execution moments that could have or should have been better for the Ducks. You think of the 3rd and long screen pass to Kenyon Sadiq. It was a great play call. One of many screen passes, which Oregon is definitely not exceptional at offensively at this point in time. They try to set up that screen. If Gabriel doesn't have the pass batted down, Sadiq might run for a first down. It's a great play call. Sadiq's explosive. We know that. And it just didn't work out. But there was an active reduction in Oregon's desire to push the ball down the field and their desire to consistently run the ball on first down to get the clock moving. Oregon was up, remember, 28-3, end of the first half, and Dillon Gabriel throws a pick 6. It's his worst throw of the year. It might be the worst throw he makes all season. I would be very much on board with that being the worst decision that he makes all year because it wasn't particularly impactful. Of course, Dan Lanning would never admit this. I think he realized what he thought going into the game, what many of us thought, which is Oregon can't lose this football game. Oregon's just better across the board. Better coaching staff, better quarterback, better O-line, better D-line, better receivers. Every single position group, the talent advantage was with Oregon. And UCLA is really bad. And I think Dan Lanning realized, okay, I've already lost my starting tight end in the first half, and we've run the ball, not great, but okay. And we've shown we can throw the ball, and we've created explosive passing plays. If Oregon wanted to go put up 56 points, they could have. But would it have been worth it? Probably not. Because how many style points are you getting when you already have a 20-point win? What's the difference between a 20 and 30-point win? Would anyone look back and say, well, they only beat UCLA by 21 versus, well, they beat them by 30? No, Oregon was a better team. Everybody knew it. The Ducks blew them out. And I think that was always going to be the most likely outcome. So when I saw that Oregon had only attempted 10 passes in the entire second half, I thought, yeah, I think Dan Lanning just wanted to move things along. because you have one less day of rest for the Michigan State game that is on Friday. I don't think he's looking ahead to Ohio State. I think at halftime, he was thinking about, okay, we want to make sure we win the football game, but also I don't think UCLA's got a lot of fight in them. I don't think UCLA is capable of moving the ball on our defense. And guess what? He would have been correct to think that if those discussions took place. Maybe they never did. Maybe Oregon just played poorly in the second half on offense, but the defense was so good the entire game. I think that gave Dan Lanning the confidence to say, you know what? They're not going to score 30 plus points. That's just not going to happen. Maybe they get to 20. Maybe we open the offense back up. But the number of times it was run, short pass, or short pass, run, or run, short pass, run. There was nothing about the offense in the second half that resembled the offense in the first half. And Jeff Schwartz, who's a great follow on Twitter, said that, or tweeted out that when he watched the film back, he had the same sorts of observations. Like, there were a couple of missed opportunities, to be sure, but that there was a deliberate attempt. Go look at the time of possession that Oregon had in the first half. Several of their touchdown drives, I think 3 of them, were under 2 minutes. They did not have a drive in the second half that was under 2 minutes. There was no urgency. There was no juice. There was no we need to go. You know why? Because they didn't need to go. Oregon outgained UCLA in this game 431 to 172. So they win the game by 21 points. And then you look back and say, boy, I felt like they could have won it by more. Yeah, they didn't even need to be explosive in the second half. And I don't think they wanted to be, because it kind of felt like they were just trying to get out of there. And sure, there might have been an element of the farm quality I talked about going into it, where when you play Stanford on the farm and there isn't a big environment, it's hard to get up for the game sometimes. And I think that happened to this Oregon team. But if you watched it and thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe the second half was so bad, can't do that against Ohio State. If they struggle against Ohio State, it's not going to be because of a lack of attitude. It's not going to be because, well, this all started with the UCLA game. Like, no, I think Oregon just knew that they were better going into this game. They're not going to think that going into Ohio State. They're a slight underdog. Last I checked, according to our friends at FanDuel, by 1.5 points. It's teetered back and forth really for the last several months. Oregon a slight favorite, Ohio State a slight favorite. It's a toss-up football game. There are going to be big stakes. There's going to be a big crowd. They're not going to come out of the second half and think, okay, well, you know, we have a 4-point lead. We're good. We'll just rest on our laurels here. But against UCLA, the talent gap was that severe. So if you watch that first half, compared it to the second half, and thought, boy, it feels like they really weren't trying to create explosive plays. Like, there was no creativity. You know, the 52-yard touchdown to Tez Johnson, phenomenal play design. You show the quarterback run, you suck up the defense, boom, you throw it behind. Was there anything like that in the second half? It was just kind of a lot of duo halfback run and drag routes and a lot of short hidden stuff, which is a big part of Oregon's offense. But the explosive plays were there. There was a downfield shot to Trayshawn Holt, a downfield shot to Tez Johnson, more creativity, more movement. And it felt like they were lacking that in the second half, because I think they realized, yeah, UCLA's not winning this football game because the defense is just going to go win it. So why do we need to showcase everything that we've got offensively when we know that we can do enough here? So some execution things might have been missing, but your eyes did not deceive you. The numbers tell you, like I said earlier, 10 passing plays in the second half, 31 in the first. That's a pretty stark difference. They wanted the clock to move. They wanted to get out of there without any more injuries, and alas, they did. Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments, or hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter. So, who can play better for Oregon? Who can play better? There are a handful of guys. Got to be honest, kind of hard to find. That is coming up next. Hey, NFL fans, start the season with a big return on FanDuel. That's America's #1 sports book. Are you a college football fan and you want to bet college football? You can do that over at FanDuel, because of course you can. They've got everything. And when you get the hunch in the middle of an NFL game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com, that's the place to go. And every Oregon game, it's always over there. It's always over there. You know why? Because Oregon plays college football, and they've got a lot of other college football lines. And if you feel confident the Ducks, go bet them. They are a more than 20-point favorite against Michigan State this week. I think that's about right. Michigan State, on paper, is more likely to cover that number than UCLA. UCLA covered. Props to them. Good teams win, great teams cover. Everybody knows that. But if you want some free money based on the information we've got so far this year, just wait for my score prediction and then bet the other side of the spread that my score prediction comes down upon. I'm 0-4 picking Oregon spread this year. Fun fact. So, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed over at FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com, go check them out. You check out FanDuel. I check out Second Segment Sips every single show, whether you see it or not. Let's hop into the mailbag. YouTube comments, X, formerly known as Twitter, or if you want priority access, you can become a Locked On Ducks insider. Link in the description below. Wherever you listen to or watch this show, you can get a free 14-day trial. Then it's just $5 a month. You get priority mailbag access. You get all sorts of other perks. You can talk to me one-on-one all throughout the day. I'll still answer your questions wherever they come from, but priority always given over there. Dylan asked, who are the 4 players that leave something to be desired? Now, Dylan phrased this question slightly differently, and I'll be honest, I amended it because I think it's a slightly better question. But his original question was, if you could swap 4 players on this Oregon team with anyone in the country, who would you go for? It's like, well, if you can put Ashton Genty in the backfield, yeah, well, no duh. If you can take, whoever the best NFL caliber offensive lineman is on the interior and put him in there, yeah, you're gonna do that. But I shifted this a little bit because I think it's a more interesting exercise. Who are the 4 players so far that leave something to be desired or have progress to be made? One guy stands out to me the most, and that's Marcus Harper, who has started on this Oregon offensive line since 2022. And I'm not coming on here and saying Marcus Harper's been terrible. He's been awful. I'm just saying I think he has another gear. We've been waiting, and Pro Football Focus reflects this as well, for Marcus Harper to make big strides in the running game. He hasn't yet. I'd like to see him do it this year. He's been around college football for a long time, so it's not as if he needs more time in the weight room or to understand the scheme or to get his body in shape or anything like that. He's been solid this season. I think he can still improve as a run blocker. As a pass blocker, he's still exceptionally solid. But that's the first guy I'd look at and say, he hasn't stood out to me as having an exceptionally great year, but he's still been really, really solid for this Oregon offensive line, which did not allow a sack of Dillon Gabriel on Saturday. Another guy that came into my mind, and again, as I said on the other side of the break, I kind of had a hard time with this, which is a good thing for Oregon to do, because there are a lot of guys who are either exactly what I thought they'd be or who are even better than I thought they'd be. Like, did I see Bryce Betcher being Pro Football Focus's number 3 linebacker in the country, fluctuating between 1, 2, and 3 from a grade standpoint? Did I expect him to be Oregon's leading tackler right now? Did I expect him to be as impactful in the pass game as he is? He had 2 pass breakups against Oregon State. He had an interception on Saturday against UCLA. No, I did not necessarily expect that. Did I think he was capable? I mean, maybe, but he's overperforming at this point. And I look at the way the secondary's played. They've been awesome. Defensive line, really good. Offensive line, they've started to figure it out. Though, as I mentioned, I think Harper has another gear to him. Dillon Gabriel, exactly what I expect. Running backs, still what I expect. Tight ends, receivers, like everybody has been really good. Oregon's 4-0. They've played 2.5 good football games and 1.5 poor ones. And they're going into Michigan State this week. It's the last opportunity to tune up before they get ready for Ohio State. So it was hard for me to sit here and think about, like, who have I been, disappointed in, or who has not yet played the way he's capable of and could do so by the end of the year. On defense, a couple names come to mind. One of them is Kobe Savage, but when I put this down in my show notes, I put a question mark after his name because I don't really know. Because here's where it's tricky with safeties, and I've talked about this a lot on the show. Oregon has not had a ball hawking safety on the back end since Verone McKinley, who led the country in interceptions, was an AP All-American. Like, guy was phenomenal. And Oregon's had some safeties who have been solid, but no one who I feel like is, a really roamy guy on the back end who's going to, not talking about Bryce Betcher here, play center field and go sideline to sideline and make a lot of plays. Kobe Savage hasn't been outstanding. He clearly hasn't been terrible. And the way you know that is Oregon's defense is not allowing a bunch of chunk plays. Now, he did have a bad run fit. No, that was Tyshim Johnson. But Savage doesn't take a great angle either on a long touchdown run by Ashton Genty. But Genty is surreal. He is not human. That is the way he is playing to this week. Now, that was not just an Oregon game thing or Georgia Southern. Like, he makes ridiculous runs that Jordan James might, positively turn into a 5-7 yard game you feel good about. Ashton Genty's breaking 70-yard touchdowns. He's insane. Absolutely insane. But for Kobe Savage, if I asked you this right now, for those of you that have watched all 4 games this year, what's the most impactful moment he's had? Can't really think of one. I can think of a couple for Tyshim Johnson. He had the big tackle against Oregon State. He had the interception against UCLA on the deflection from Jabbar Muhammad. Like, there are moments, but it doesn't mean that he's playing poorly. It just means this was an all Big 12 conference safety who came over and he's been fine. But has he made a lot of splash plays? Is he heavily impacting Oregon's defense? No. And do you see it on every play? Also no. Because the fact that Oregon's defense is not getting consistently burned deep down the field means that Kobe Savage, who's Oregon's starting free safety, is doing his job. And sometimes that's all you need. But do I think there's another gear? Yeah. I think a guy, right now, would I say he's on track to be an all-conference selection as he was at Kansas State? No, not at all. Can that change? Yes. So Kobe Savage is a name that comes to mind. I think before him, though, on the defensive side, Justin Jacobs has been kind of a surprise disappointment so far. I don't know if he's fully healthy because he's had an injury history. He got dinged up during fall camp. We saw that on that team out west. And I don't know. When he's been on the field, kind of like Kobe Savage, he's not necessarily doing anything wrong, but I don't feel like he's making an impact. Whereas when he joined the team after battling his way back from injury last year against Washington State, that was the first game he played, his impact was felt. His presence was there. He had a sack. He was hitting Cam Ward hard. He was making plays in the run game. When he's been out there, I feel like I never notice him, but I notice the other 3 linebackers that are there. Like right now, I'd say he's been Oregon's 4th best linebacker this year. And coming into the season, I would have slotted him in as Oregon's starting number 2 linebacker. But he hasn't been as productive as Bryce Betcher. He hasn't been as active as Devin Jackson. And he's not as good as Jeff Bossa. That's Oregon's best linebacker, of course. And I said going in during the bye week that Oregon needs Jeff Bossa back because he's an impact guy for Oregon's defense. What do you know? Ducks defense plays great, and Jeff Bossa makes plays, had a sack, and did some other nice things as well. Had that great pass breakup on J. Michael Sturdivant, did a lot of really good things. And seeing Jeff Bossa back healthy, that is a big, big thing for this Oregon defense. But Justin Jacobs is the other guy I'd go to and say, feels like there's more in the tank. Feels like there hasn't been the level of production we expect based on what he has done in the past. And look, that might not change because Boss is your number 1 and Jackson and Betcher have just been better. If Jacobs is your 4th linebacker, it means your linebacker room is doing pretty well. This is also underscoring the point that I was making at the start of the segment, though. An underperformer, a huge underperformer for the Ducks is their 4th string linebacker. That's a pretty good place to be on the defense. On the offensive side, outside of Marcus Harper, there have been no snap issues with Poncho. The offensive line penalties have cleaned themselves up. The offensive tackles are grading well. The receivers rock. The tight ends are involved. The running backs look good. I don't know. You guys tell me. Of people that have played, who do you feel like can take a big step forward? I think statistically, Evan Stewart could take a big step forward, but that's just going to be a random week-to-week sort of deal where, sometimes they're shading the coverage towards Evan Stewart, sometimes they're shading it towards Trayshawn Holden, and Dillon Gabriel's just got to make the right reads, and he's been making them a lot, which is really, really awesome to see. But I don't think that's anything about Evan Stewart because we also saw him lead Oregon in receiving against Boise State. Statistically, he'll have better games than he did. He was like 3 for 27 or something against UCLA. Wasn't super involved, but he always impresses anytime he does catch the ball because he's a crazy route runner. But I guess that would be the answer on offense. If I were to put a fourth in there, Evan Stewart can have better games, whereas 3 of the 4 he hasn't been heavily involved, and then 1 he leads Oregon in receiving yards. So Oregon's already had their uniform reveal. I actually got a question about this before this came out, and this is one of the coolest things Oregon has ever done. That's coming up next. First, let's talk about Game Time, which has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff, so you only get incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you want. You get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. They have their lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Plus, their Game Time ticket coverage is the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Just take the guesswork out of buying tickets and use Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Oh yeah, that's right. It's game time. Random thought that popped into my head while I was doing the ad read. Game Time is what 2004 backyard baseball, I think Carlos Delgado used to say when he came up to bat. That was a very random and specific callback. That's the best backyard game ever, by the way. Backyard Baseball 2004. I might play it after I finish recording the show. But Oregon's got these phenomenal uniforms that they're dropping. Usually these come out later in the week, but you have a game on Friday. And they also want to get the word out because this is a Stomp Out Cancer uniform for the Ducks. And what makes it extra cool is, and there's a video on Twitter, I'm sure it's on YouTube as well. You can just go to Go Ducks or Oregon Football on Twitter and find it. It's about 5 minutes long, and they document how they incorporated the Lanning family, Sophia and her 3 boys, Dan Lanning's kids, because Sophia is a cancer survivor herself. And so they brought their input to the table to make these uniforms. And I think it's super cool. Number 1, they look awesome. Number 2, for them to incorporate the Lanning family journey down that. And look, I haven't experienced that personally. I know people that have, and I know many of you have. It sucks. It's terrible. And this is the coolest thing Oregon uniforms have ever done. First of all, the uniforms look fantastic. Like, shout out to Sophia and her 3 boys, because working with the design team, I think the uniforms look phenomenal. But for them to also have, stripes on the toes, because that's what one kid wanted, or they always look forward when they'd go visit their mom while she was in the hospital, they always look forward to getting ice cream. And so they have an ice cream cone, decal with Oregon in it. And the way that the O comes into the breast cancer ribbon, and the different colors that are on the stripes representing the different types of cancer to raise awareness for it. Like, Oregon uniforms take plenty of flack because they're just trying to get attention. They're just trying to be flashy and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's a recruiting tool. It's a marketing tool. It's all that sort of stuff. This is so fantastically awesome. And I just want to applaud everybody involved with it for going through, like, somebody hatched the idea and then they put it together, and for it to look this good for such a worthy cause that everyone gets behind. Like, I think it's awesome. I think it's phenomenally awesome. And I think it's a really nice gesture to the Lanning family as well, to show them that, hey, we love Dan. We love having him here as our head coach, but we appreciate the sacrifices that his family makes as well, because being a college football head coach, not an easy thing to do. And it is even harder, I'm sure, going through a battle with cancer. And I know that this has to mean a lot. Like, if you watch the video, the best part is the emotion on the kids' faces. Like, they think it is so cool. They think it is so cool that something they helped design is going to be on an Oregon football uniform that they're going to wear on Friday night at Autzen Stadium on national TV. I think it's great. I think this is really, really cool. And I don't think anyone's going to be out there criticizing the Oregon uniforms this week, but rather showcasing how special they are, the importance of a uniform like this. They've got the Stomp Out Cancer on the bottom of the cleats. They've got the stripes on the toes, stripes on the shoulder pads, the ice cream cone, the O with the ribbon. Like, check them out. Watch the video. It's really good. It'll make you smile. And that's what we're ending today's show on. Just relentless positivity. Sometimes I come on here and there's something we just got to address, and man, Oregon's got to figure this out, and it doesn't always end on the highest note. And you know what? I can't think of a more awesome thing to end today's show on than that right there. Check it out if you haven't already. Like, comment, subscribe if you have not already, please, and thank you wherever you listen to or watch this show. Thanks for making this your first listen. Go make Locked On College Football your second. I host over there with a great lineup of guests, of course, that roll through, giving you the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth every day. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.